Welcome to the Vine Resources Podcast Show with your host, David Lawrence.
Welcome to another edition of the Vine Resources Podcast Show. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Boyd Mulvey. Boyd is the CEO of Chorus Intel. Boyd, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Boyd, I didn't ask you before we started where in the world you were today, but I know you have a fabulous company up in Woodbridge, up in Norfolk.
Correct.
Yep.
I'm actually in head office, exactly.
Fantastic. And right on the river there, so I'm sure it's a lovely place either to have a lunchtime get-together with a team or a run as well in the summer months.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've got a barbecue which has been used a couple of times for Friday afternoon bangers.
Fantastic.
So when it's sunny, it's pretty good.
Well,
although I've not been invited yet, so I'm out of the country whenever they do that. I think that is by design.
Well, Boyd, I wonder if we can start with sharing with us a little bit about Chorus, a little bit about who you are and what you do.
So Chorus has a series of packages which are designed primarily for the police and for the security industries. And what we do is we allow the police to ingest all of the various types of data that they have and quickly come to an answer on their investigation so they can basically make our streets safer and help put away bad guys. So we take raw data for the police, cleanse it, analyze it, and put it into courtroom ready or evidential documentation.
Fantastic. And I don't know a huge amount about that process internally, but I'm curious to imagine there's an awful lot of admin. Of course, I know that from the police sector, but also I guess it's how do you transport that data securely from mobile to the courtroom? Is that right?
I think that's exactly correct. Also, it has a great deal of noise. There's a number of different sources. Basically, most people, or rather everyone, leave a digital footprint, and that digital footprint is essentially the new DNA for police. So DNA is obviously hair and fragments of your person you leave behind, which may be at a crime scene. Well, with the digital world, your pattern of life and so on is also being created every day, and the police can use that to either convict bad guys or actually prove that people were innocent. And we also have been used in county lines and missing persons. So we've been able to find or help the police find vulnerable and missing people quite quickly, which in many cases has allowed them to help save lives.
Well, that's fantastic to hear. And I know you've got about 35 people and growing fast. Can I ask you to just share with me what a typical day in the business looks like for you, Boyd, as the CEO?
So probably three different types of days. Increasingly, I'm in head office less and less. But if I am in head office, it's up early, usually about 6:30, doing emails from home. Then I do some exercise. If I don't keep fit, I can't really keep up with the demands of the job. So usually an hour or so of exercise, then into the office for meetings and conference calls, calling customers and coordinating the staff, both internally and our salespeople who are on the line. If I'm in London, which is where many of our customers are or many of our corporate partners are, then I tend to go down, have a day full of meetings, entertain clients or partners in the evening and stay overnight and do the same thing kind of 2 days running. But my focus this year has really been setting up our operations in the US. So that's usually a 2-week stint with lots of jet lag. And that's that can be 1 or 2 meetings and then on a jet, 1 or 2 meetings on Monday, flying on a Tuesday, meetings on a Wednesday, flying on a Thursday. So it's pretty hectic.
Yeah, and I know what that experience is like. Is that generally East Coast, Midwest, or West Coast, or?
Well, I have to attend the meetings when I can get in the diaries of our customers or potential customers. So I just come back from a U.S. trip. We went San Francisco, Washington, Ontario, Tucson, and then Washington, Virginia, and then back to London. So it was kind of traversing the continent 4 times in 2 weeks. So it was a bit brutal, but it was a very successful trip, so it was worth it.
Just out of interest in touching on the US, what similarities do they perhaps have with the challenges around data to the UK, and what perhaps are the major differences that you've noticed?
So the UK is ahead of the US. I think the UK police model, because of the Commonwealth and the colonies, it has been the model that has been designed and copied around the world. And so certainly all ex-colonies, and of course North America were both colonies, Australia, New Zealand, and so on, all follow the UK model. And weirdly, in the police space, I think the UK is actually ahead of the US in this regard. So the problem that we solved in the UK still exists in the US. So we're quite excited to help them try and solve that.
Now I know you started your early career hands-on yourself as a data analyst. With Credit Suisse in the 90s.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, over that period of time, perhaps who's had an impact on you as a leader, or perhaps who was a mentor to you, and how that impacted you in your business life.
Well, the people that I admire are the people who put the customer first. So I think you can always create interesting technology, but it's the user experience that I think makes a difference. So Steve Jobs and Apple, even though I don't use a lot of Apple products, I really admire the fact that in my mind, the secret sauce of Apple is the customer interface or the user experience. It's all about joined up, connected, and so on. Unfortunately, in the business world, historically, Microsoft has been the dominant player, so we tend to use Microsoft platforms and so on. But I respect that. Or Richard Branson. I mean, you've started several fantastic brands, all based on just finding a need or niche where you could do better for the customer and filling that.
Do you? Yeah, go on. Sorry.
So I was going to say, so basically internally, everybody inside the company will recognize this. The answer is yes. What's the question? It's hard to kind of keep that up as we're growing and we have many customers, because sometimes the customers don't necessarily agree as to what they want. But that's been the mantra that I've used internally. If when facing a customer, the answer is always yes.
Touching on the customer now and sort of where the market's going, I'm curious, and particularly within your, the security services or police, what do you see are the challenges around cloud transformations and keeping data secure?
There's probably 3 elements to this. One is the security of the cloud, and people like Microsoft Azure and their government cloud offering have taken a great steps to try and make sure that any cloud offering is secure. So we are Microsoft strategic partners in that, and we've deployed our software with them. We've also deployed it in our own secure cloud. So security is definitely one of the factors. A secondary factor is the sharing of the data. So county lines is a perfect example where drug dealers are using vulnerable young people, and particularly girls, to distribute the drugs for them across county lines in the UK using the train network. And they're exploiting them on a sexual basis, they're exploiting them physically and mentally, and they're distributing drugs. The only way the police can tackle that is by sharing data, and sharing data across forces. So it's imperative that the police share that data. So it's secure, being secure at one level, sharing data at another level, and then keeping the public informed and bringing with the public with the police on a privacy perspective. So the public needs to be able to trust the police. There needs to be decent oversight and tools in place so that there isn't abuse of power. So those 3 things are quite important in this space, I think.
Thanks for sharing that. I want to jump on to employee engagement. You're obviously growing up a business very quickly. It's expanding. I'm curious to know what you do from the top to keep your employees engaged.
So we have regular staff meetings and updates. We have biannual presentations done by myself and the senior management team to everybody in the company so that they know where we're going and why we're going there, so they can see the bigger the bigger picture rather. All our CRM teams, our customer relationship managers, come from law enforcement, so they have a strong belief in what we do. Many of the high-profile cases that you read about in the press, we will have had some small part to play in that. So all the staff members can read in the newspaper the effect that they have, and we get some really amazing and glowing compliments from our customers, particularly when they have had a big success. They've just done a good conviction of a drugs gang or whatever, or saved a life or found a missing person. We get some glowing reports from them, and that gets shared around. So basically, a strong corporate culture of behaving with integrity in the market and doing good, and that really I think resonates internally.
What do you see now as the biggest challenge facing business leaders, particularly business leaders in today's market?
Skills shortages, I would say. Hiring and retaining dedicated and competent staff. Certainly, in the UK, that's an issue. I think in the US, I've not come across that yet, but we're still early days there. But I would say the skills shortage, and secondly, in dealing with the public sector, the procurement process there is really a terrible process. It's opaque, it's time consuming, it's inconsistent. So for an SME dealing with government agencies is just really a nightmare.
I did think they tried to make that easier a few years ago, but it sounds like it's still a challenge.
I think fail is probably the way I can describe that process.
All right. Well, they need a consultancy partner in to make it better, probably. What's the best, Boyd? What's the best piece of business advice that you've ever received that you could share with us?
Probably two bits. One is find a problem and solve it, and then once you've solved that, don't move people's cheese. What that means is if you give somebody a solution to a problem and they become reliant on it, you can't mess with that. So if you move it, it comes from a book from the same name, Don't Move My Cheese. If you change the way your software or your solution works, you need to inform and bring your customers along with you. Otherwise, they'll disenfranchise them, which comes full circle back to putting the customer's experience first.
Absolutely. That and often that can be overlooked sometimes in organisations to focus on the most important part. What do you do when a new employee comes into the business, when they start out or perhaps even before, to help them really understand the culture of the business?
Well, actually, we've been fortunate enough. The vast majority of the people that we hire already know the business, and our users, certainly from the customer-facing side. So they like the way we do business. They love the product. They're very strong advocates of the product. They know the marketplace. They know what we do in the marketplace. So they come on board already big fans. If there's support people who maybe are less aware of the product, then we make sure that they are mentored, and so they see what we do, and they know what their role is, and we try and encourage them to see the customers, to be involved in the product. So even if they're not necessarily directly involved, they may be HR or finance or support, and so that, but they know what the product does, they know why the customers use it, and they know why it matters, basically. As we say, we're not an ordinary software provider. The work we do can help save lives. So it's important that people understand just how important that is. Whether it's programming or testing, they have to know that what they do in the company matters.
Is there perhaps a story that you could share from your childhood that's really impacted your work ethic, in later life?
So I grew up in Canada, and I played ice hockey. And then I was about 12 or so. I I made the A team. I was on the B team before, and there's something in ice hockey called a slap shot. It's like the big shot on net. It's what you do if you're a striker in football, I think. And my slap shot was rubbish, and I knew that, and I was in the A team, so I probably put in 100, 200 hours that winter in my garage, basically practicing and working on my slap shot. And the very last game of the season, I had a kind of a breakaway, and I let go what was then actually a slap shot as opposed to nothing before. And unfortunately, I didn't score, but it was a very near miss, and the crowd kind of went nuts. And at the end of the season, there's two great trophies, two important trophies. One was best overall player, and the second was most improved. And I got the most improved for that year, which was at that point in my life, and for that team was very important to me. So it just taught me that basically you've got to work hard and put in the hours, and it will pay off.
I love that story, and that's so true. What do you think now, your industry, and you with your customers, what's it going to look like in 5 years' time?
So as I said, the data is the new DNA for the police. And many police forces know this, but many police forces don't, or rather people within the police forces don't necessarily know that. So the amount of data is growing exponentially. The types of data and how it's collected and its relevance is growing exponentially. There's a wider debate as to how much and how that data should be used, but there's unquestionably here to stay. So I think it's going to be more powerful in the future, and it's already being used now. But there's also budget constraints and the fund that they need to find the funds to invest in the right tech. But it's definitely going to be data is here to stay.
Are we seeing how is that shift towards AI powered predictive policing systems, data, machine learning and data science?
So with the transfer of computer processing and applications into the cloud, and we probably have about 45 or 50 customers in the UK. Maybe a third of those are already on the cloud, and more are moving to the cloud every month. With the ability to share data on the cloud, you have the ability and you have the scale to start to introduce AI. And that will help, I think, spot patterns and assist investigators and analysts spot people who might be under investigation but might be vulnerable. Spot patterns where they can get to an answer quicker. So I think that the transfer of functionality into the cloud and data onto the cloud will facilitate AI and ultimately help the police do their job faster.
Boyd, final question for you. If you had your time again and were giving your 20-year-old self advice, what's the one thing you would tell yourself, apart from practicing more in winter, by the way?
Yeah, put up the skates earlier. I would say that nobody, despite what they say, nobody has the whole picture or the answer, and most people are making it up as they go along. You can't stick with what you know, because if you did, then if you stick to your sort of 5-year-old self, what do you know? So always push yourself, always believe in your abilities, and if you're considering or you have an inkling to give up the comfortable job, do it earlier, because don't wait for a better time. There's a lot of mistakes you'll make along the way, but if you keep working hard and you have the ability to carry on, then there may be some setbacks along the way, but you're likely to succeed. So basically, leave early and work hard.
Fantastic. Great advice. Boyd, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast and sharing your stories with our listeners. If people want to find out more about Chorus or to connect with you, how should they do that?
Probably the best thing to do is just go to the website, chorusintel.com, and all our contact details, a little bit of what we do and so on is all on there.
Fantastic. Boyd, thank you so much for joining us, and speak to you soon.
Thank you, David. Thanks for having me.
We really hope you enjoyed our podcast. If you're listening to this on iTunes, please take a moment to give us a review. 4 stars would be good, but 5 stars would be amazing.